Hello everybody, I am Manny and welcome back to my guided playthrough. Let's let's just continue right where we left off. For now I will just work with my low mana until I get the mana reservation efficiency nodes. It's not too bad. I would just prefer to be able to cast a little bit more, but it's okay. If you can remember, in the last episode we have seen that that I missed one of the Trials of Ascendancy in another area. So at some point I will get this one as well. But for now I will just will be continuing them in the campaign. This one is an exposure. I explained this before. When I am exposed to an element type, then my resistance of this type is reduced by 10%. And here is now also an area where items with 4 sockets can drop. So I will have to look out, because if I'm lucky I can get 4 linked sockets, which can increase the damage of my Raging Spirits because I can link a third support gem. But in return I also have to keep in mind that this will also increase the mana cost. And with such low mana, that could be an issue. But fortunately we are still early on in the game, so we're still leveling quite fast. Okay, the first one of this wheel only gives me increased radius of my aura skills. Because if you look at my zombies, they have this little blue circle around them. And if I... Okay, it's not even this one. Okay, yes it is. This just symbolizes that they are affected by any aura, it seems like, because no matter what I activate, they always have it. I thought that it was specific to a specific aura, but this just shows they are affected. And each aura has a specific radius that it's affecting. And if my minions, you can see if I run back, then they lose the ring. This one doesn't have it. That's because it is out of range. So for something like the resistance aura that I'm now using, the purity of elements, it's beneficial if my zombies are affected, so an increased area is helpful here as well. So they just survive longer. And here, if we look at the minimap or at the overlay map, this blue icon right here, this symbolizes an area for a hideout. So if I go to the Undercity hideout, well, let's just do it. And now I'm clearing this area, then I will unlock this hideout. I have already unlocked this hideout, so it doesn't do anything for me. But just so you have seen what it looks like. I'm sorry for my pronunciation, but I'm just not used to talking English and playing the game while thinking about what to say. I really mess up my pronunciation from time to time, well, constantly actually. So now that I have cleared the hideout, it will give me the information that the hideout has been unlocked, and then you can just continue. So usually the style of the hideout in a specific area corresponds to the style of the area that you're in. So if you're in an area that you really enjoy and you see this hideout icon, then you can clear it and most likely get a similar hideout. And here I only have collected 2 of these busts and I need 3 to complete the quest, so somewhere, okay, here's the quest icon, the last one. And early on in the game it can be very helpful if you pick up higher tier life flasks, because they restore more life. And if you only have low tier life flasks that restore very little life, then there is also the option to vendor 3 of the same tier of life flask to an NPC, and then you will get a life flask of 1 tier higher. This also works with mana flasks and with some other items as well later on. This enemy right here has an attack that can make you bleed, I think. Or some of these enemies. And that can be a little bit dangerous. In general, if you're bleeding, then it can happen that when you walk, well, in general, when you're bleeding and you walk, you take increased damage from bleeding. So sometimes when bleeding, it's beneficial to stand still. It's always situational, depending on how many enemies are nearby and hitting you.
Envy the mute corpses at my words. Flay me, flee me.
Okay, here in the catacombs I'm only looking for the Trial of Ascendancy, because I do know that there is one, and here it is. I think we haven't seen these traps. These just deal damage when you walk over them or if they run into you. Some sort of blade traps. I was never really interested in these traps, but I think that their damage is percentage based, so you always take a certain percent of your life as damage. I'm not quite sure, but I think that's how it's working. Okay, now that I got the trial, I can just use the waypoint or the town portal and finish the quest for the busts, and then I just move back to the waypoint.
Good luck to you.
Another skill point, and now I can already use these two. So 18% mana reservation efficiency. My Raging Spirit and Zombies also got a level. Very nice. More damage.
See you.
And now you can see I have already a lot more mana available. And if I take my skitterpots here, now you can see it is still a little bit darker, so grayed out. And if I hover over it, it also tells me not enough mana. So I would need a little bit either more reservation efficiency or more mana, because my vitality and clarity have not fixed, because they're all fixed amounts, but an absolute value, that was the word I was looking for, of mana that they reserve, and not percentage based. So if I increase my mana, then it would go down proportional. I don't know the correct way how to formulate that sentence, but it's proportional, the amount of mana they reserve. So if I get more mana, then I would have more mana left. I think you know what I mean. I'm just looking for one more quest item in this area, and then I would like to continue to the next area. Just not quite sure where it is. Okay, there it is. Like I said in a previous video, if you don't know what to do for a quest, then you could always just press your M key to open this world map or the quest menu, and you will see it. And you can just click on an item and it will tell you and also show you on the map. For this one, like the Labyrinth now, this is the quest for the Trials of Ascendancy that I'm doing in these areas. It will also tell you where to go or what to do, but in this case it won't show you on the map because it's kept a little bit secret where to go. I will just resummon my zombies. Another thing that you can do regarding quests, I would have to check this myself real quick because I've only set this once and then never touched it again. But there is an option to display your quest goals, what you need to do right here under your minimap. It should be somewhere in the options menu. Let me just check. Maybe on the UI. Okay, I'm not quite sure. I think there is an option somewhere. Um, if I think about it, well, if it comes to mind, then I will leave it in the comment, not in the comments, I will leave it in the video description. But if I can't find it within a couple of minutes after finishing this video, then I would suggest that you just Google it. Or is it maybe here somewhere? No. Okay, if you hover over this information icon, this eye, you can see what each of the icons on the map means. It's also not there. This is one of the options that I use once and then I never touch again. So I honestly just can't remember. And over the years, it's quite possible that maybe there have been some changes. And what I'm remembering is not even valid anymore. Okay, but now that we have leveled, let's check the, let's take this last node right here and check our mana. I think it's still not, you can see now it's a lighter color, so I can use it, but I think that if I activate it, then I won't have enough mana to cast my spell probably. Let's just try it out. Okay, 21 mana left. So in theory, I still can cast it, but it's, I don't know. It's one of these decisions. It's honestly, it doesn't matter during the campaign. I will just remove it. It's a little bit more damage, but not as noticeable right now. This is one of these spirits that I told you before that can possess enemies. In this case, I have killed the spirit before it was able to possess the enemy. And with a skill like Raging Spirits, you don't have much control over it. With other skills, you can really control which enemies you kill and when. And if you are using such a skill where you have all the control, then you could decide what you want. If you let the spirit possess the enemy, then the enemy gets harder, but it has a chance of dropping better loot. And if you say, no, I'm not comfortable with fighting a stronger enemy, then you could just try to kill the spirit before it can possess the enemy to keep the fight easier. Okay, here's another Vaal side area. Here they have some extra fire damage and an increased quantity of items found in the area. Like I said, you don't need to do these Vaal side areas. They are optional. I personally just would like to get one of the fragments to show you. And sometimes these corrupted items that drop from the Vaal vessel can actually be quite nice for leveling through the campaign. And the shrine that I picked up now, this is a freezing shrine. You can see the cold damage pulses around my character that slows enemies. If you don't want the shrine, you can just right-click the icon. I just right-clicked it only 1 second before it left. Oh no. This was a bleeding effect. Have you seen how my health got down? That was because I was moving. I should actually probably just... Okay. I have to remember that this is a hardcore character. And we'll pick up the leather belt. Okay, wild spectral throw. Another wild skill for the vendor maybe. But still no fragment. I think that this is the area level that I am in is probably too low. So I don't think maybe well maybe they cannot drop at this area level. One thing that I would like to let you know is because by now I have already mentioned a couple of times that if you have questions or if I should do something a little bit different, that you should let me know in the comments. Just keep in mind, usually when I'm recording these videos, I'm recording like 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes at a time. And so if you leave a comment in one video, it can take me quite a few episodes before I can react to it. If you're asking a question, then I may try to answer it in the comments itself, if I know the answer. But for anything that needs to be changed in the video, it can take some time. This one right here, I just picked it up because I wanted to show you. There are also some unique items that affect your minions. And in this case, it gives me one extra zombie, one extra specter, and one extra skeleton. What specters are, we will see in this act, but a little bit later. We will get a skill gem that will let me reanimate slain enemies, and these are called specters. This would be some nice boots, but they don't have movement speed, unfortunately. But they have pretty high life for this level, 58, and some chaos and lightning resistance, which is nice. And a little bit of life regen. 54 life, mana, lightning, chaos resistance, all good things, but these ones give me 14 strength, and I may have some strength requirements already. Let's just check. As one of my gems, the melee splash needs strength, would be 4 strength short. Once again, it's just search for strength. And here you can see the requirements. The item requirements, 4 more strength required. And one would be down here. That's a bit unfortunate. I think I will actually use one of my respec points to get the strength because I want the item. And because I'm not using an additional aura, I don't really need this node right here for now. So I will just refund it and go down here maybe to get the strength. It's not optimal, but later on I would also like to take these nodes, so it's not that much of a waste. And later on you have an option, and there is a possibility to get more respec points. So a couple you could use if you are later on in the game. Let's say you're already level 50 and you want a complete respec of everything, then most of the time it's just better to restart and create a new character. But in this case I will just leave it and take this belt because this life boost is pretty nice. You can see I get from 688 to 735, and I always have to keep reminding myself that I'm playing hardcore. And here's another, well, I won't keep it. But because in a previous episode I mentioned the stash tabs, there is also one for unique items. I'm just not sure which icon it has. This one right here. This would be for unique items, and if I set the affinity, and now if I shift click it in, then I have an overview of all the items. It stores one of each unique item that I have, so if I get a second Queen's Decree, then it would not fit and it would display a message that there is no space for the icon, for this item.
Need something?
Another option, because previously I've seen another character right here in town that was using 2 wands, this one. He's using 2 wands. This is also an option, so if you want to go for more damage, which could be nice, especially while leveling, you could just equip a second wand, and let's just say I drop almost the same wand again with something like 45% increased minion damage. This would increase my damage considerably while leveling, but I personally, I already know in the later stages of the game I want to use a shield, and especially because I'm playing hardcore here, um, I want the extra defense. Well, for the shield it's more the chance to block, and usually the affixes that are on the shield are more passive. And this is the other stash tab. This is for divination cards. And this is a divination cards. I haven't showed this before. This is the first one that we got. And in the game, these cards can drop. If you look in the middle on the left side, you see a 1 out of 4. So I currently have one card that is named check in the box. You can see the name at the top. And if I have 4 cards named check in the box, then the settings complete and I can trade the card in to receive my reward. Divination cards have different rewards. In this case, you can see it almost exactly in the middle. This, not quite sure, orange or golden text is item. It just says it will give me one unique item, because the text of the item, of the word item, is this color. That means it is unique, because if you look at the unique item, the name is spelled, well, it's written in the same color. There are other items that can drop that maybe have the text in blue, then it would be a magic item. And there are completely different cards. Some cards, well, some sets give you other cards. Some sets give you currency items. like these ones right here, something like here, and there are a lot of divination cards. So I will just give it in. You can here select what you want to see. I have mine set to full stacks, so only if a set is complete and I can trade it in, it will be displayed here. But I can also set it to all, then it will just show everything. I can set it to owned. Every card that I own would be shown, and the ones that I'm missing, the unowned one. And if we take a look here, you can see the name, but nothing more. And if I go back to owned, here I have a slider on how large I want to see the item. So if I give it move it to the right, it becomes smaller, and to the left, it becomes larger. But that once again is optional only if you want it. I'm just used to it. But I'm also playing the game for a couple of years now. So there is that. And now if you look at the map, you can see the connections here between to this area. This connection and this have those lines, which means that the way is currently blocked. I cannot go there. So the only way I have left is up here. So I go back to the battlefront, and I know that the way forward will be in this direction. I don't know exactly where it will be, but usually to a top right somewhere, or northeast. Because I had previously, I was thinking about the strength requirements that my melee splash gem has. This is one of the things, if you're planning a build or if you want to use some specific gems, the attributes are something that you need to keep in mind, because sometimes it can be harder for some characters to get specific attributes. Sometimes it can be easier. Like for my character here, I'm a witch, and if you can remember, a witch is starting here, and here at the top is the intelligence area. So almost all small nodes that I can take. I don't want to go AFK here while enemies are alive, because they will probably kill me. But all these small nodes right here, almost all, give me intelligence. You can see here all the blue, and just from time to time there is one strength node, one dexterity node, but almost everything else is intelligence. So when I'm playing a witch, I will have a much easier time to meet my intelligence requirements for items and gems. But now that my melees my minions are melee attackers, I would like some melee support gems as well, like the melee splash. And those are usually strength gems, because they are mostly used for, melee characters like the Marauder or the Duelist, which start at the bottom or bottom left of the tree, and that's the strength area. So that's just something to keep in mind, that if you plan your own build at some point, keep in mind that you also have specific requirements to meet. And the same goes for items that you equip, like my chest plate, for example. if I want, I actually can't remember if I said this before or not, but I think I did. But the color of the sockets that you get is dependent, well, the probability for each color is dependent on the requirement of the item. So if you have a body armor with a very high strength requirement, but no intellect and no dexterity requirement, then the chance for you to roll red sockets it is much, much higher than the chance for you to roll blue or green sockets. I think I already said that, maybe in the first or second episode, but just in case. Each socket color corresponds to a specific attribute. So red is strength, blue is intelligent, and green is dexterity. And the higher one of the requirements is, the higher is the chance to roll the corresponding socket color. So on a pure strength item, to roll 4 blue sockets is very, very rare. Later on in the game, there are specific crafting methods that can increase your odds or save you some expensive currency items or make the craft cheaper in general. But more specifics later on that. In the beginning, it's just useful to know that if you have almost purely blue gems, that you would like an intelligence-based item to make it easier for you to get the sockets. Of course, there are always exceptions and some builds may differ. But early on, while leveling through the campaign, that's the general rule of thumb. Because during leveling, you don't really want to spend too much currency, because usually these items will be replaced within a couple of hours of gameplay. And now I can decide. For me, right now, an amulet with some more strength would be nice, but I know that later on I will also have some dexterity requirements. And the way I pass on the skill tree, because I start at the top and I go to the left, usually gives me more strength later on. So usually I need the dexterity. But for now, I will just take the strength one. Then maybe I can respec again if there's something good. Right here, this one is pretty bad for me. I don't really need the life regeneration at this moment because I'm using vitality, which gives me more than this one. Well, not that much more, but 16. So these 3 are not that important anymore. And mana regeneration rate, by now I got some from my passive skill tree. So the 16 also is not that much of a deal anymore. So let's just check what we got. Some dexterity. This fire damage also only affects me, but not my minions, so it would not do much for me. And the same with the elemental damage with attack skills. For my minions, elemental damage with attacks would be good, but because I'm not attacking myself, this would have no effect. So this one would only give me strength, dexterity, and a little bit of armor, which is not important at this point. I'm not sure. I will just keep it for now, and maybe at some point I will need it. Now we go to the sewers, and the quest item that we just got now can be used to remove this blockade right here. It burns it away. Now I can go through. Here's another crafting receipt that I can pick up. This is physical damage. This would be nice for melee characters. taking quite some damage. I think that now that I have a little bit of mana reservation efficiency, I think that I will level Vitality a little bit more for more life regeneration, because early on with a low life pool, the 16 life per second is quite a lot, but now that I have 750 life, 16 is not as much anymore. My mana would go down. Currently I have 99 free. Yeah, let's just level it a little bit. 89. And how much life regeneration? 19.3, so 19.7, so about 3 life regeneration more. Almost the amount that I would lose when I change my amulet. And that's one thing why I would highly recommend, if you're a newer player, to play in softcore. Once again, the only reason why I started this character in hardcore is because I wanted to show you, well, I wanted to start the playthrough from a fresh start. And because I already have a very high level softcore character in this league, I have already so many items, it wouldn't have been a fresh start. And if somebody watches the video, he could have thought that, oh, he just uses the items that he already has found with another character, and that's not a real playthrough anymore. So that's the reason why I really wanted a fresh start. Life regeneration. Okay, and here I have to be careful because these do quite some damage. You can see these indicators on the ground before they hit these circles or dots. And the other attack that he does, where he shoots something out from his position, leaves burning ground. So if I stay in there, then I would take constant fire damage. I think that I should start clearing a little bit better, killing more monsters, maybe even repeat an area that I was already in, because currently I'm not feeling too comfortable. I'm sometimes taking large amounts of damage in 1 or 2 hits, and my minions don't do that much damage. So I have already mentioned this before, but if you feel weak or if the content is too hard or feels uncomfortable hard, then you can just level a little bit more, because leveling can give you a quite substantial damage and survivability boost. And of course, it's also the way you play can also make it harder or easier on you. Um, if you take my playstyle, for example, because I'm playing softcore most of the time, I have the tendency to just use Flame Dash to go into rooms, and from time to time I will just Flame Dash into a group of enemies, and suddenly 10 enemies hit at me at once, and this can be a very dangerous situation. So I have to keep in mind that I'm playing a minion build, and minions have the benefit that you usually can try to hide behind them. It doesn't always work exactly the way you would like sometimes, because if you look back to the unique enemy that I just killed, from time to time he was targeting me, but other times he was focused on my minions. So let's just say about half the time I was left alone and I was secure, and I only had to be a little bit more careful the other half. But if you don't have any minions, then the enemy is on you all the time. So you either have to play tankier or just move better. But usually, if you're playing a melee character, they usually have some options to just be tankier, which makes, of course, sense. Would be not as fun if they would be squishy and have to go to melee range to deal damage. This character has energy shield, and because my minions stopped doing damage for some time, it regenerated previously. So I had to get rid of the energy shield with damage before I could kill him again. Okay. Now I get my Race Spectre skill gem. That is because I killed, I think it was Gravicius was his name, I think.
Go with courage.
The one that dropped the fireballs. And with my Race Spectre, I could raise some enemies, but currently I don't have any free blue sockets. I could remove skitterbots. Actually, I will do this and use Race Spectre. Currently, I will not raise anything right now, but maybe later on we can find a useful Spectre. Okay, let's see. Some life regeneration, some lightning resist, and nothing else. And in addition to that, no, I would not even have to change the colors. I could socket vitality in the shield and the blue, the two blues I have. Considering that my vitality only gives me 19 life regeneration and this one has 23.7, I think I should change. 5 life, 15 mana. I just have to make sure that mana is not an issue then. And some cold resistance, that's not too bad. Let's just go to the hideout, because here I can see my mana reservation. Okay, yes, it doesn't look too bad. Let's just switch vitality. Let's just check it out, how it looks. That looks okay. And defense-wise, okay, cold resistance with the ring that I got and some random other items and my purity of elements. There it is. I have quite some substantial resistances currently. I'm at 55 fire, cold and lightning is capped. In brackets you can see the actual value that I have. So I have 80% cold resistance, but only 75 are affecting me. The overcap is useful if you can remember when I talked about the curses, that there is an elemental weakness curse that when you target an enemy with it, gets his elemental resistances lowered. If let me take a step back. Let's say elemental weakness reduces all three of your elemental resistances by 15%. If you have all your resistances at 90, so 15 over the cap, then the 15 reduced from elemental weakness would still keep you at 75 because 90 minus 15 is still 75. So it would not have any effect on you. So overcapped resistances can be helpful. If you have too much overcapped resistance, then maybe you're wasting some FX slots that could be replaced with something else that would benefit your character maybe a little bit more. But overcap is not as bad. Well, it's actually quite beneficial at some times. Okay, so that's nice. The 5 life, not as much. Then the mana, not an issue. So that's a nice upgrade. Here we can see, okay, minions would get some accuracy rating and some critical strike multiplier. Early on, the accuracy rating would be maybe helpful, but I don't feel like changing the wand at the moment. So everything here can sell. So I can go back to a town, sell my things. You can also have some NPCs in your hideout, but you can try that out yourself. If you want me to show you, then you can let me know in the comments. Then I will show you a little bit more about the hideout. But I think it's beneficial if I just try to focus a little bit more on finishing the campaign. Then we have 2 more skill points. Now I have to decide where I want to go. Here's some more life that is helpful. The mana reservation efficiency, I'm still not sure. If I take more, then I could level my vitality even further. On the other hand, I feel like my minions are dealing quite low damage, so I would like to get more damage. And this one is a nice note for that. Attack speed and damage. Yes, I will just go this way. Some more damage is always nice. And later on, if I would level vitality really high, then I could use this. But because I know what is coming, my plan is actually to not use vitality later on. In Act 4, I get another skill that I can use instead of vitality. I could use both, but well, we will see it later. This episode is actually also pretty long again, so I will just leave it here. I'm just double checking if I'm missing anything, but I think that's enough for today. I hope you have a good day and enjoy the game. Goodbye.